Eagles fans will not believe what ESPN NFL insiders and analysts had to say about the Birds going into 2026. The disrespect is real. But let's begin here. The Philadelphia Eagles this past season in 2025 able to repeat as NFC East champions, the first team to do that in more than 2 decades. So the Eagles running the NFC East currently, I want to run the NFC East here at Chat Sports. New subscribers picked up this month. 469 in the month of February here on Eagles Now. We're beating the Cowboys report at 317. We're beating Giants now at 327, of course, and the Commanders report at 311. I want to annihilate those rivals. So hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Birds, and let's get this show started right now. A shout out to some of the real ones who continue to join the Philly drinking team in buying our merchandise, which we'll show you here in just a second. John G, Chris A, Bruno C, Phil A, Todd H, Emmett R, Sean K, all buying Philly drinking team shirts. That was starting on Friday into Monday, and then yesterday, a couple more legends supporting the program and getting some Eagles merchandise. Theodorus G, Chris M, Joseph K bought 2 shirts. Jacob S bought one as well. Thank you so much for supporting the show and getting those Philly drinking team shirts. And look, here's what I'm talking about. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. If you want to get geared up, look good, feel good for St. Patrick's Day, because I know a lot of you are going to be on some St. Patty's bar crawls. Chatsports.com/Eagles Green. Rep Philadelphia Eagles football while celebrating St. Patrick's Day with this limited edition 2026 Philly drinking team shirt. You see the link down below. Chatsports.com/Eagles Green. You can become a member, and we're giving shout outs to everybody who's been buying those shirts. Again, really appreciate all the support. All right, from here on out, you're getting Eagles talk. Nobody's doing it like we're doing it. And let's begin here with the Seattle Seahawks winning Super Bowl 60. The NFL offseason, of course, is officially underway. Seattle winning their second Super Bowl championship 2 Sundays ago. They throttled the New England Patriots. And so we look ahead to the aforementioned offseason. A week from today, we'll be doing shows in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. In fact, we'll be broadcasting live as early as Monday of next week. And so ESPN asked 11 of its NFL experts to make predictions for 2026. Those predictions focused on Super Bowl predictions and MVP predictions. Who will win most valuable player? Plus, one big prediction for this offseason from all of those 11 people. And look, the Eagles this offseason have undergone a lot of changes on the offensive side of the football. They hired Sean Mannion. He has 2 years of coaching experience. He last played as recently as 2023. He's never called plays before in his coaching career because he's very green. The Eagles are literally changing their offensive scheme. And I understand why people might be worried about the Birds going into this next year. But are the Eagles being disrespected nationally? Because nobody from this ESPN panel is buying the Eagles to be true Super Bowl contenders, when in reality, I think Philadelphia should be in the thick of things and in the mix as a Super Bowl contender looking ahead to the 2026 campaign. I know that the season was a little bit ugly last year. This offense was anemic, but the defense was spectacular, and this team still has a ton of talent. You also look at the Eagles' path under Nick Sirianni. There is a theme here. First year under Nick, wild card exit, bad loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In 2022, Eagles lost in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, should have won that game. In 2023, after making it to the Super Bowl, wild card exit. 2024, Eagles get the revenge on Kansas City and annihilate the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And in 2025, wild card exit. So what you've seen here in the 5 years under Sirianni, wild card exit, Super Bowl, wild card exit, Super Bowl, wild card exit. And so my take on the Eagles in 2026, I think for the Eagles this upcoming season, we're going to see one of two things. In 2026, the Eagles are either going to have a great season And the 2026 campaign is going to be a beautiful masterpiece in which Philadelphia makes a deep playoff run. They're one of the top teams in the NFC. They vie for the number 1 seed in home field advantage coming through Lincoln Financial Field, and they play for a Super Bowl. That's on one end. The other side of the spectrum, Sean Mannion, new offensive coordinator. The offensive scheme, it's been completely changed. That could either work out really well, or this year for the Eagles in 2026 could be an unmitigated, absolute disaster where this time next year, when we're getting ready for the prime of the Eagles offseason, we're doing it with a brand new head coach. Because if the Eagles do have a very bad season, I think that Nick Sirianni gets canned because Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman aren't going to take even mediocrity for one more year. Now, Matt Bowen, NFL analyst, had this for his Super Bowl prediction. We're going to run through all the Super Bowl predictions that all these analysts and experts have for 2026. Bears over Bills, he said. Chicago needs to add pass rushers, but the foundational players are there on offense under Coach Ben Johnson. With quarterback Caleb Williams and his playmaking ability, the Bears will beat Josh Allen and Joe Brady's Bills to win Super Bowl 61. For the Bills, yes, they have Josh Allen. They need to get him some wide receiver help. That defense hasn't been good over the last couple of years. Plus, they have a first-year head coach in Joe Brady. The Bears, they were the cardiac Bears in 2025. They won so many heart-throbbing, close games late where they had to mount these crazy comebacks. Their defense also wasn't that great. That usually doesn't translate year over year. Look at the Washington Commanders from 2024 to 2025. Usually that evens out a little bit. That could happen with Chicago. Obviously, we'll see what they do this upcoming offseason. Jeremy Fowler, well-known NFL reporter. He's going Rams over Broncos. Los Angeles matched up with Seattle as well as anybody last year and will be back to finish the job. The Matthew Stafford-Sean McVay connection is improving with age. The secondary was a weakness late in the year, so expect the Rams to address that issue for roster balance. This is definitely a popular pick considering the 2025 results, right? Fowler makes a good point. The Rams really competed well with Seattle. The Broncos, if they had Bo Nix healthy, would they have beaten the New England Patriots at home to get into Super Bowl 60? You can make that argument. Another year of Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, dynamic offense. They need to address the cornerback position and that entire secondary this upcoming offseason. Dan Graziano, Chiefs over Packers. One down season and a torn ACL isn't enough to scare me off quarterback Patrick Mahomes and coach Andy Reid. Mahomes recovers along with the Kansas City offense, and the Chiefs claim their third Super Bowl title in 5 years. I know for a lot of Eagles fans watching, this will make you sick. But look, Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL pretty late in the 2025 season. When is he going to come back, number one? What does he look like when he comes back? That's a huge unknown. Pamela Maldonado, sports betting analyst for ESPN. Niners over Bills. The 2025 season was a grind with multiple injuries to key players such as edge rusher Nick Bosa, linebacker Fred Warner, tight end George Kittle. Yet the Niners still piled up 12 wins and won a playoff game. A roster that's already battle-tested under that level of adversity should be a contending team once its health stabilizes. I don't think that's a bad pick, and we saw how the Niners were able to shock the Eagles in the wild card round, but Maldonado points to the Niners' health. Will the Niners ever stay healthy? They've been one of the most injured teams going all the way back to 2013. A ridiculous long sample size. Eric Moody, fantasy analyst. Broncos over Seahawks, a little rematch from several years ago. The Broncos appear undervalued despite winning the AFC West and finished tied for the league's best record last year, while the Seahawks reminded everybody that defense still wins championships. Did you forget about what the Eagles did last year, Eric? History suggests repeating is difficult with only 9 teams winning back-to-back Super Bowl titles, and champions often lose key contributors during free agency once players cash in. John Schneider, right up there with Howie Roseman, is one of the best GMs in the sport. The Seahawks do have a lot of pending free agents, and as we saw with the Eagles, and as we've seen with pretty much every team outside of the Patriots and the Chiefs, right? Repeating is hard. Plus, Seattle's going to have their third OC in 3 years. Jason Reed, senior NFL writer. Chiefs over Rams. Anyone who knows Mahomes understands that he'll push himself to return in top form. With him entering his age 31 season, team CEO Clark Hunt, coach Andy Reid, and GM Brett Veach believe that the Chiefs' championship window remains wide open. They'll do their part to help Mahomes lead the Chiefs to their 4th Super Bowl championship since 2019. Of course, the Mahomes question mark, as I alluded to and talked about just moments ago, is valid. But on the offensive side of the football, I think the overall talent for Kansas City is a big worry. Plus, that defense has lost some marquee contributors over the last couple of years, and Chris Jones getting a little bit older. Aaron Schatz, Rams over Chargers. Okay, first time we're seeing the Chargers here. That's right, I'm predicting a fight for LA at SoFi Stadium just outside of LA. 2 home teams. The Rams were number 1 in offense this season. The offense more consistent than the defense. The Chargers will get back their offensive tackles and added Mike McDaniel to coordinate the offense. Plus, they have a ton of cap space to address their offseason needs. Mike McDaniel with Justin Herbert is very intriguing. And if Mike McDaniel can't elevate Justin Herbert to at least a playoff win, something is wrong. Because Herbert in his playoff career has been absolutely dreadful. Getting back their 2 bookend offensive tackles should really help the Chargers. Ben Solak, NFL analyst. Texans over Rams. I'm buying all sorts of Texans stock as that defense is staying together and the offense was showing positive signs of growth in a season with the new offensive coordinator and totally retooled offensive line. With an improvement in the running game, Houston is set for an explosion. Houston's defense is definitely good enough. I thought if the offense didn't shoot themselves in the foot and mess it up, that defense could have lifted Houston to a Super Bowl championship. If Houston played Seattle, we could have had like a 9-6 Super Bowl potentially. But while the defense is good enough for the Texans, is C.J. Stroud. He's been bad since his rookie year. Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager. Commanders over Bills. Quarterback Jayden Daniels stays healthy next season and bounces back in a big way. He plays in every game and finishes the season by out-dueling Josh Allen and the Bills in a 45-42 shootout in LA. The Commanders, really? I like Jayden Daniels as a player, but that roster was not good last year. One of the oldest in the NFL. They have a lot of work to do. Jayden Daniels staying healthy could obviously help them. And for Buffalo, if they lose, another Super Bowl, Bills Mafia will be in shambles. Seth Walder, Chargers over Packers. Am I falling for the Chargers in the offseason just like we all do every year? Sure, but this time it'll be different. The 2025 Chargers' biggest weakness, the offensive line. Already has a built-in solution with their 2 excellent tackles, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater returning to health, add McDaniel as OC, and I find myself truly believing. As for the Packers, will they finally break through? I mean, Green Bay over the last few years has been one of the more talented teams in the NFL. Going into the last few seasons, they've been a popular Super Bowl pick, yet the last 2 years, they haven't been able to get out of the wild card round. Field Yates, lastly. Rams over Broncos. The 2 teams that came up short in the conference title games last year find a way to get over the top in 2026. The Rams will emerge as Super Bowl champs at SoFi Stadium, becoming the 3rd team to win a Super Bowl at its home venue. The Rams won the last Super Bowl at SoFi after the 2021 season. All right, Field, I hear you. But what do you notice, everybody? What do you notice? Not one of the 11 people from ESPN have the Eagles even making the Super Bowl. Really? I think the Eagles are being disrespected here, which brings me to this. I know the Eagles season in 2025 was frustrating and it was ugly, but this is why the Eagles can bounce back and win it all in 2026 and following that Nick Sirianni path of going from wildcard exit to Super Bowl appearance. Number 1, Vic Fangio is back, one of the best defensive minds in the history of football, and this Eagles defense is loaded. It's young, it's deep, and last year, they were one of the top units in the NFL. After 2024, they were the number 1 unit in the National Football League. This Eagles team, don't lose sight of the fact of this. They still have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL on both sides of the ball. The Eagles still have the best general manager in football in Howie Roseman. John Schneider is closing that gap, but Howie can separate here. And owner Jeffrey Lurie is going to do whatever it takes to invest in this team and make the necessary moves to get them back on track. And I know that it's a risk in hiring Sean Mannion. He's inexperienced. He's never called plays before. That offensive scheme and that offensive coaching staff is all brand new for the most part. But I think that this new scheme, bringing in the ingredients of a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur offense can work. I think Jalen Hurts can thrive. I think this scheme can maximize the uber-talented players on that side of the ball. And I think the Eagles can get back to the Super Bowl and win it all this upcoming season. Today's poll question is this: can the Eagles compete for a Super Bowl in 2026? Type yes, type no. Let me know what you think. As far as those analysts and experts making their MVP picks, no Eagles here either. Bowen going with Dak Prescott, Jeremy Fowler, Bijan Robinson, Graziano, Caleb Williams, Maldonado, Christian McCaffrey, Moody, Josh Allen, Reed, Jordan Love, Schatz, rocking with Patrick Mahomes, Solak, Lamar Jackson, Tannenbaum, Jaden Daniels, Water, Josh Allen, Yates, Lamar Jackson. Can you imagine if Jalen Hurts wins an MVP? The Jalen Hurts detractors and haters, their brains will combust. Maldonado's bold prediction: the Bills will finally fix their offense with one decisive move, acquiring Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown. They would immediately be on top as in that tier of Super Bowl contenders if they added A.J. Buffalo's top priority is receiver help, and pairing him with Allen can solve its biggest limitation overnight. Buffalo has their rare mix of an elite quarterback and a playoff-ready roster, a clear singular need and a clear desperation to fill it. All that is missing is the blockbuster deal to put it together. I do think that Buffalo needs to focus on getting a legitimate number one wide receiver this offseason. A.J. Brown would be that, but I wouldn't move A.J. Brown if I were the Eagles, which brings me to this point, because I got to clear up some things, because a lot of this stuff from a financial component has been very confusing. Let's clear up some confusion on the A.J. Brown front financially. Thanks to Over the Cap for breaking down these figures. Trading A.J. is definitely a big hurdle for Howie Roseman and the Eagles because of the contract here. The cost to trade A.J. pre-June 1 is very steep. $48.9 million. The Eagles would lose $25.5 million in salary cap space for 2026. If the Eagles did trade A.J. Brown, a small positive, they would get a $5.5 million cap credit for 2027. That pales in comparison to the dead cap charge. If the Eagles were to trade A.J. Brown after June 1, it would be $22 million and $21 million in dead cash for the next two seasons. If the Eagles and this A.J. Brown marriage didn't work out in 2026, they tried to smoothen things out and it wasn't effective, and they tried to get the relationship on track, and they cut A.J. Brown after the season, it would be $53 million in dead money for Philadelphia. So clearly here, when you look at some of those dead cap charges and the financial figures here, the best path for the Eagles, the one that makes the most sense, the one that is most beneficial from a roster standpoint on offense and with their salary cap, is to keep A.J. Brown, hope the new offense works, is effective under Sean Mannion, which elevates the play of A.J., increases his production, and it keeps him happy. That's the only scenario in which I think all this makes sense between A.J. Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on the show. Really appreciate all of the support. We're giving you Eagles coverage every single day year round, and we ain't stopping.